is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this MLB 9-game slate. It's officially Major League Baseball season. Let's go ahead and break it down, guys. I cannot wait to do this. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MLB content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GBP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on Draftkings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. It truly is a fresh of breath air. I cannot wait to break down all of these games on opening day. Let's go ahead, guys, and dive right into it. I understand a lot of you guys have been coming over from NFL, NBA, even League of Legends content. That's where the company was started from. But last season, we did cover a lot of baseball content, including KBO, which I had flashbacks, waking up at 4 a.m. every single morning just to give you guys some of that content. But guys, MLB is personally my best sport, other than CSGO, in terms of ROI. So please do trust me when you take some of these plays. Trust me when I talk about the stats here, because MLB is all about leverage stacks, how to stack teams against opposing pitchers, including ownership, all that good stuff. We're going to cover, since this is the very first slate of the season, this is going to be more of an introduction video, and then I'll get into all the content a little bit later on. But there's some main stats you guys need to focus on: the weighted on-base average, ISO, and ownership. Okay, as long as you have those three stats, nothing else matters in terms of MLB, just because it's so volatile. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain why here, because it's just so funny, because ironically we have some of the highest inflation here right off the bat in terms of what we see normally from MLB, and that's because we actually have a Coors slate. What a Coors slate is, if you guys remember back to last season, anybody playing in Coors Field against the Colorado Rockies at their hometown here, anybody playing against their pitchers at their stadium usually gets higher inflated ownership. The reason is because it's easier to get home runs at that stadium. Due to elevation, the ball has more lift, science stuff, you guys get it, okay? Anyways, you guys have to trust me. Historically, there's easier, it's a lot easier to hit home runs there, it's a lot easier to score, and because of that, pitchers, they tend to struggle here at this stadium. And it's just funny. Ironically, I talk about leverage in MLB, and then we have a Coors slate right off the bat on the very first slate here. So as expected, let's actually go through the over-unders and talk about it here. So Baltimore against Boston here, a 9.5 over-under. We have Minnesota versus Milwaukee, 8-point spread, or 8-point over-under. And with Pittsburgh against Chicago, 8.5 run total. With Philly and Atlanta, we have a 7-point total. Cincinnati and St. Louis, 7.5-point total. And then Colorado, the team that we were just talking about here, versus the LA Dodgers. LA Dodgers are expected to win here, minus 190, and an 11-run total. That's far more than any of these other teams, maybe with the exception here of Baltimore and Boston. And then Texas versus Kansas City, 9-run total. Arizona, San Diego, 8.5 over under, and then Miami, Tampa Bay, 7.5 over under. Okay, so let's get back on track here. Now that we know all the totals, you guys can pretty much assume that the Colorado and Dodgers game is going to be highly inflated in ownership because of the total here. And as expected, I sorted by ownership here. We have Will Smith at the very top in terms of ownership, Corey Seager next at 29.6, Gavin Lux here is 28.7% ownership. Yoshi at 28.6 is the next highest owned. 4 of the top 5 are LA Dodgers, okay? So, and why is this significant? Because you guys can assume that all your cash lineups should have LA Dodgers in there. They're going to be the highest owned guys. If you relate this back to NBA, you want to take high owned players in good situations. And obviously, the Dodgers should be the highest scoring team on the slate, but more than likely, they will not be. And finding the next highest scoring team, or the highest scoring team, is going to be very crucial in gaining leverage against the field. In MLB, you can stack up to 5 players from one team. Your chalk stacks are going to look like 5 LA Dodgers or 5 Colorado Rockies, and anybody else is going to be in terms of scoring is going to be leverage. Okay, so that's how to approach each one of these MLB slates, especially in bigger GBPs. You want to find the low owned stacks with high leverage. You want to incorporate your projections, what doesn't make sense in terms of ownership, and then stack those teams aggressively. Okay, and smaller contests like cash contests, smaller GBPs, you can actually get away with not stacking. And 100-man GBPs or less, I've actually taken down a lot of those contests without even stacking and just playing, you know, 1 or 2, maybe 3 leverage spots there. So with all that being said, let's talk about strategy and how to approach MLB as a whole. The one most important thing is ownership and gaining leverage in terms of ownership. And what I did here in my cheat sheet is I've taken into consideration all of the ownership across the board. Taking ownership and then combining it with projections and then finding leverage, who has the best spot to succeed, who's getting overlooked across the MLB, is my most important takeaway from my leverage sheet. So let's talk about it here. As I talked about, LA Dodgers, the highest inflated, they're going to be the most owned, so therefore they're showing a huge inflation here, 9.7% in inflation and ownership. So this column shows you who's going to go under owned. Basically, all you guys need to know is whoever's green is going to be the one that's going to be the most overlooked. So based on my percentage ownership and based on my projections, it looks like Atlanta's in a great spot. So let's actually take a look here. Atlanta projected right now, the over-under is only at 7, but they're a very good team historically, just hitting. So going against a very good pitcher in Nola, they're just getting overlooked. They have the most upside in terms of ownership. That's one thing I want to look at here. And second most, let's take a look at Boston. As I said earlier, it looks like this game is going to be a shootout. 9.5 over under. I believe when we were first looking at this, it was a 9, so it's actually risen against the horrible Baltimore Orioles, unfortunately, my favorite team. So yeah, leverage there with the Boston Red Sox. So it just goes to show you, how do you gain leverage? You just look at the teams that are getting overlooked. And in terms of projections and ownership, it looks like Boston, it looks like Atlanta, another team, Chicago. We haven't even talked about the Cubs. They're all getting overlooked. And if you just 5-stack those teams in bigger GBPs and smaller GBPs, you have enough leverage right there if they outscore the LA Dodgers. LA Dodgers aren't guaranteed to put up 12 points tomorrow. So why the heck not? Why not take your chances? So that's how you approach these slates. You just 5-stack these teams, and I'm going to get into it just a little bit more statistically. But that's what my cheat sheet shows you guys. If you guys want to sign up for my cheat sheets, I think now is literally the best time to do it. Patreon restarts on the 1st of the month. $20 gets you access to all of my leverage spots every single game, every single slate. I make it very straightforward to you guys. I just pointed out my favorite leverage stacks as of right now. Of course, all these ownerships are pending. They're subject to change, so they can change throughout the day. And we have 24 hours in between now and the time that the slate does start. So everything can change. So that being said, let's move on to some of my favorite plays. As I said, LA Dodgers stacked them. Will Smith, Seager, Bellinger, Lux are all showing very high owned. But another tool I really like to target here, I really like to talk about plate IQ. We always use court IQ for NBA, but plate IQ shows you historical evidence on who has the better matchups. This isn't as significant, but it's a good indicator here. It shows you who in the lineup should perform well based on their historical the historical matchups here. So let's actually start out. I'm going to go matchup by matchup just to show you guys my favorite plays. Let me take a drink here. Let me pause the video real quick. All right, now that I'm hydrated, let's go ahead and talk about this. So Baltimore, let's talk about their hitting situation against Eovaldi. Eovaldi is going against not that bad of a lineup here in the Orioles. Mancini is back, thank goodness. We were concerned about his health, but obviously doesn't have any 2020 evidence to show or statistics to show how good he is against Eovaldi, but he's a very good hitter. I might even stack 1 through 5. It looks like Franco having an ISO of 190, 320 is where I'll draw the line. Even Ruiz here, 212 power, so I do like that. So 1 through 6, all viable options here for the Baltimore Orioles, and they will definitely get overlooked in a very good situation. By the way, real quick, ISO just shows your hitting power. It's a very advanced statistic. Don't want to go too much into it. Just trust me. ISO, the higher the ISO, the more power he has. So Santander, a very good spot here. 320 ISO and a 396 weighted on base average. Weighted on base average shows you your percentage chance to get on base. So for instance, Santander has a 39.6% chance to get on base. Mountcastle has a 40.3% chance to get on base going against opposing righties. So looks like Eovaldi does struggle against righties, and versus lefties he's a lot better. So Mullins, not in the best spot. Looks like targeting righties here in this lineup for Baltimore. For Boston, smash spot here. It looks like it's very hit or miss. Verdugo, not that great of power here versus Means, but Means gives up tremendous power. A 244 ISO. I'm sorry, you guys can't see me behind my big head. 244 ISO and a 323 weighted on base average versus lefties. Versus righties, it's going to be a 295 versus weighted on base average versus righties, and a 227 ISO. So just looking up and down the lineup here, Hernandez in a great spot, Martinez, Bogarts, and Renfroe going to be very good GPP options. Actually, Renfroe in the 6th spot is going to be very overlooked. Hopefully, he does sit in that 6th spot. And then at the very end here, Dahlbeck, I think I'm saying his name right, and Vasquez also in the 8 and 9 spot. So targeting some early on hitters, and then maybe venturing off here to the very later part of the line that might show you some good leverage here for the Boston Red Sox. Going on to Pittsburgh versus Chicago. Keep in mind, all the games I'm talking about going forward are going to be very low owned compared to that game that we are referring to with the Dodgers and Rockies. So starting here, Chicago, Ian Happ looks amazing statistically. A 306 ISO and 392 weighted on base average. Contreras, same situation. Looks like he doesn't have as much power, but still a decent amount here. 193 ISO. Rizzo, 222 ISO and a 326 weighted on base average. Exactly average. Look at that. It's like a white color. You're either red or you're green, or white in the middle here. So Chris Bryant, not that good of a hitter last season. Did struggle, but again, hopefully he does pick it up. Maybe not too intrigued there, but Jock Peterson in this 5 spot, I do like him going against Cool struggles against righties. So just to recap here, Happ, Contreras, Chris Bryant, if you want to jump back on there. Baez, not that bad of a spot, but he did struggle last season against opposing righties. So there's a couple good players in that mix. Let's actually switch over to Pittsburgh here against Hendricks. Hendricks, a phenomenal player. Not too much upside here for Pittsburgh, but if you want to target anybody, it's going to be Hayes and Moran. Again, he's just a stud against lefties and righties. If you guys look here, a lot of green, which means good for the pitcher, not good for the hitter. Going down the list here, we actually have Atlanta versus Philly. Who's going to be in good spots here? A lot of these Atlanta hitters, what did I say, guys? A very good hitting team could absolutely destroy Nola, but Nola is a very good pitcher. So, hit or miss here. That's why I said they're very good leverage. If they do get the relay going, do like targeting Acuna, Freeman, Azonia, and looks like Swanson here down at the 6th spot. But 1 through 6 looks very good. I mean, they're all very, very good. Maybe the later part of the lineup, not too intriguing. They don't actually have a 9th spot here for the batter yet, but that will come out later. Philly looks like the exact same pitcher, but actually I kind of want to go back to my leverage sheet to see if they're even worth it. So Philly, where are you, Philly? Yeah, they're pretty good leverage. So it looks like they're going to be another hit or miss team. This matchup as a whole is going to be hit or miss. Only 7 points or 7 runs are projected to be scored here, just because it's a good pitcher versus a good versus a good hitting team. So definitely hit or miss. So I don't really recommend them, but I do recommend them in big GPPs. So let's go down the list here. We have Arizona versus the Padres. I believe this is supposed to be another close shootout. Padres, where are you? Yeah, 8.5, not bad. Not bad. So you can target some hitters in this game. Bumgarner, let's take a look here versus righties. Had struggled as of last season. So you want to target Tatis, Machado. They're both righties. Pham, not a bad spot. And then Myers. I actually am curious to see what their ownership looks like. Let's actually look here. Padres, they're usually very high owned. Yeah, 27.9% on Tatis. I mean, he's one of the most popular players in all of MLB. Pham, he had 20.3, so they are a little bit inflated, but if you see at the later part of the lineup here, not too bad. So let's actually look at their stats. I see why. Yeah, they kind of drop off. So Will Myers, probably a good GBP option. But in terms of stacking, just small GBPs for these guys. Let's actually switch over to the other side. Arizona, definitely going to go overlooked because it's Yu Darvish versus these guys. These guys all suck. I don't really recommend them. Maybe good leverage and big GPPs. Highly doubt they're going to do anything here versus Yu Darvish. All right, going down the list here, we have Texas versus the Royals. Let's see what they look like here. Brad Keller, what the BC was last season, and if you compare that to another good pitching spot here, yeah, not too much going on. Low, not that bad of a spot. Let's see what they look like in terms of ownership. By the way, I won't be doing this every single video. The leverage sheet is just for our Patreon members. So who was I looking at? Texas? Yeah, Texas. Yeah, they're showing some decent ownership. So not too intrigued in them, honestly. Just big GPPs for me. And then the Royals, they usually get overlooked. Gibson did struggle versus lefties. So are there any lefties here? Benintendi, yeah, not bad. Solar, not bad. Santana, not bad because he's a switch hitter. Yes, Solar's not bad. Let's actually take a look at their ownership. It's actually higher than I thought it would be. Yeah, a little bit leverage. I'd say medium to big GPPs here for Kansas City. But again, these guys won't be owned at all in small GPPs. Big GPPs, still going to carry very, very low ownership. Let's go down the list here. We have Tampa Bay versus Miami. And then I believe one more team. No, we have 3 more. So St. Louis versus Cincinnati. Yes, Cincinnati. Fantastic hitting season last season. Looks like you want to target lefties in this matchup here. Flaherty. So lefties, Winker to lead off. Votto, Joey Votto, Moustauskas. Yeah, these guys are all great spots. So I do like these for GPPs. Let's actually take a look at the ownership here. This is the Reds, right? Cincinnati. Let's take a look at Cincinnati. Yeah, good leverage there. Flaherty, known very, very well historically, but does struggle against lefties. So I'm loving the lefty matchup here versus Flaherty. 330 weighted on-base average and a 204 ISO. So love Cincinnati for leverage. I'm going to definitely be targeting these guys in medium to big GPPs. St. Louis, not that good. Castillo, a very good pitcher, as you guys see here. Lets up basically no power versus either side of the ball. Versus lefties, 183 ISO, which still isn't that great. O'Neill, I guess you could take a stab at here, does struggle more so versus lefties, and there's not really too many lefties to target in this lineup, so going to be off of this matchup here for St. Louis. Going down the list here, Rays versus Miami. What a good matchup. It looks like this pitcher does struggle the most versus lefties, so let's take a look at the lefties. I believe his first name is Yoshi, so we're calling him Yoshi. And there's actually some really good spots here versus the opposing pitcher. Target lefties here in this lineup. It looks like a majority of this lineup is lefties, so definitely an intriguing stack here with the Rays. And then with Miami going against Glasnow. Glasnow does give up a lot of power, it looks like, versus lefties and righties. 176 ISO versus lefties and a 255 versus righties. You want to target some power hitters here. Aguilar, not that bad. Anderson and Duvall, also Marte. So it looks like 2 through 5 look very nice. You might want to even lead off here. 1 through 5 look very nice, and then it just completely drops off 6 through 9. So I really don't like this matchup here for the later part of this lineup. And then last but not least is the chalk. Get ready, guys. I will show you why this is going to be chalky. Because if you guys just look at the Rockies, a lot of their statistics will be inflated because they played at their home stadium about half the season last season. And it matches exactly what I just said. Trevor Story, 242 ISO. Cron, 308 ISO. McMahon, I mean, he's even the later part, and they just hit a lot because they play at an easy stadium. So Kershaw, historically very streaky, gives up a lot of power versus lefties, so that's very interesting. Tapia, not the best power hitter. Blackman, a great target tomorrow. They actually don't have too many power hitters here that are lefties, so very intriguing matchup here. I think Kershaw should do pretty well. He might be very low owned too as well, so very interesting there. And then last but not least, just look, Dodgers, a lot of green. Marquez, their best pitcher, however, but again, playing at Rocky Stadium. Hopefully the chalk doesn't hit so I can take down a bunch of GPPs, but if you guys just look here, it's just all green. Dodgers are one of the best teams in the MLB. So that being said, let's talk about some of these pitchers. So I get the question usually for pitchers, you know, do you pay up or do you pay down? And it totally depends on the slate and the matchup, guys. I mean, I can't give you a straightforward answer. And on the very first slate of the season, every single season, all of these aces are going to be underpriced. Glasnow, Maeda, Woodruff, look at them. They're all in the 8Ks. They were not in the 8Ks last season. So if you guys look here, Glasnow against Miami, a very intriguing matchup. 51.7% ownership, so he's going to be very good. Maeda, 8.3K, 23.8% ownership, and then Woodruff at 21.3% ownership. Very straightforward. Let the ownership paint the picture here for pitching, because as you guys know, the hitters make the difference in big GPPs. So just plug and play some of the highest owned guys here. They usually are in the best spots, and anybody that is very low owned is low owned for good reason. Max Fried, I talked about his sneaky matchup against Philly. The pitchers and the hitters in that game are both very low owned, so on both sides of the ball here, really like the matchup just in terms of ownership. But let me go ahead and move on to some super draft plays. I've never played MLB super draft, but from what I understand, up to 4 hitters and a stack. I actually crunched a bunch of lineups here, and I was playing around with it. If you guys haven't played super draft, tons of overlay, a lot of easier ways to win over there, and it's lagging because I crunched so many lineups earlier. I do apologize. There we go. We got to it. My favorite Hitters in general, it's going to be pretty obvious. LA Dodgers for small contests, for GPPs, and some one-offs are going to be the Padres. We talked about Boston. It's pretty much it's pretty straightforward there on SuperDraft. The only difference for SuperDraft is that they all have multipliers. So let's say a player does score 5 points, but they have a 2x multiplier. Their final total is going to be 10 points as opposed to 5. With the Dodgers, they don't have high multipliers, but with teams like the Boston Red Sox have very high multipliers. So I do like the Red Sox. I like the Padres, and we talked about Ian Happ. I mean, there's another good player with a high multiplier. And that's it, guys. Very straightforward. And the pitchers are the exact same over there. Multiplier, not very high. Darvish looks very good. 1.45 times multiplier. And Gonzalez going against San Francisco. Their slate sizes are a bit different. We're going to talk about them in our Discord. Again, this slate is the 9-game slate for DraftKings. And then for SuperDraft, I believe it's the all-day slate. So we'll have to double check there leading up through lock. But hopefully this video was helpful, guys. If it was, we're going to be putting up more daily videos like this going forward. Please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future MLB content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.